What's up, everybody? This is your boy Benjamin Banks, and you're listening to Tap Out Wrestling Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. I am your host, Nick McDaniel. Today, man, if you've been listening to the network, you have heard the Fat Man movement is on the rise, and we've got a couple of the guys on the show this week. And if you've listened yesterday, then you heard Barrington Hughes. But so today, I went out and found another big man, one of the best in the business. I went out and found the man himself, Benjamin Banks. Buddy, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, I cannot complain. We're sitting here talking about wrestling, and there are lots of other things that are worse to do for a living, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, man, just let everybody know, if this movement that we're talking about, kind of right out of the gate, we'll get to the usual questions. Everybody's always like, ask some new stuff. So I want to ask you about the Fat Man movement, the Big Man movement, call it what you will, but tell me kind of what's going on, man. Where did this start and kind of what's going on with that?
Well, the Fat Man movement is this movement where, I'm trying to get, all of my fat brothers to band together. So that way we can have more opportunities in wrestling and have more exposure to us because, growing up when I was a kid, you had a lot of, big guys, like these big fat guys that were larger than life. Like, you had your King Kong Bundys, your Vaders, your Bam Bigelows, and it's like really don't have that anymore. And in wrestling, like on TV or not even on the indies for real. It's like you have it on the indies, but it's like we're not as exposed as you would say. What everybody perceives wrestlers to look like nowadays. Now, there's nothing wrong with being in shape and being muscular and being fit and all that stuff. Like, that's fine. But I just feel that there needs to be more exposure for the bigger guys because there are a ton of big wrestlers that are out there in the world. And I just feel like that we just need to get the recognition that we deserve, and we need to get the exposure, and we need to get the look at that, that we need. So that way there can be a movement and Fat Man portion of the wrestling game again.
Well, I've always said, one of my big sayings about wrestling, it's kind of like the circus. There should be a variety. And one of my biggest knocks, and I don't do this a whole lot, trust me, but one of my biggest knocks on, some of the bigger promotions are all the wrestlers look the same. They're all built, the body styles are the same. They behave the same, essentially. And that's why, like I said, I grew up, same thing. I grew up in the era, but I grew up in an era even prior to yours where we had a Dick Murdoch, Dusty Rhodes. They were still, but they could work. Don't get me wrong. They could get in there and they could tangle with the best of them, but they may not look like your, everybody now seems like that next wave of wrestler for a long time. It's everybody who's going to end up on 205 Live. They're all cruiserweights.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, Nick, but it's like, I was talking with a couple of friends of mine, and like they were like, well, you have Kevin Owens and you have Samoa Joe, and I'm like, yeah, those guys, like they're on the plus size, but it's like they're not like your typical fat guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they wrestle just like the smaller guys, like they do the stuff that they do. And, when I'm talking about like, fat guy stuff, I'm talking about like, smushing your opponents, creaming them, you know what I'm saying? Like giving them that proper beat down that they need to get, like when Vader was in the ring with somebody, like Vader would murder that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And would you say, because somebody that you kind of remind me of, and we talked about this a little bit off air, kind of the last of that breed, it seems to be, was Mark Henry.
Yeah, Mark Henry. You could even say Viscera too. Like when he was doing the Big Daddy V stuff. He was still doing that on the Indies before he passed away a few years ago. So it's like you said, like Mark Henry, from going all the way from the 90s to, I think he just announced his retirement this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like there's really not a big room in wrestling for it. In TNA right now, you have Congo Kong over there. And, that's somebody, he supports the movement as well, and he's a real cool guy. So, I appreciate him supporting it. Like I said, it's just something to get the bigger guys, the exposure that they need. And at the same time too, it's like, I kind of feel like it's a cycle because, like back in the day, it's like, everybody was always talking about, it's like, you need to give the smaller guys a chance and, this is the future. This is what everybody wants to see. And I feel like, it's just history repeating itself now. It's like the bigger guys, it's like, hey, give us a chance, like we can do stuff too if you give us a chance. There's so many people who, see me wrestle and then they always come up to me and they're like, man, like, it's like, for a guy your size, it's like you move so well. Like you don't move like, a typical big guy. And, it's just because it's like, I do what I do. What I do is good. I'm a beast. I kill it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like you said, there's guys that are out there like Congo Kong. We've had him on before and he, like you said, great guy and he can move. And I think, even me, I'm a bigger guy myself, trust me. But back in the day, playing ball and stuff like that, you could learn to move. I mean, as long as you kept active, you can still work and you can move. And I think that's the biggest thing that we always talk about when we, again, off air, we were kind of discussing some of this where you had some of those, like a Bam Bam Bigelow who's for a big guy he could just fly around the ring.
Yeah.
And the one I wanted to ask you about, because I know there's a story attached to it, and I know somebody that you were a fan of growing up, another good, example probably to look up to would be somebody like Rikishi.
Yeah, man. Man, okay. So here's a very cool story. Like growing up, like Rikishi he came onto the scene during the Attitude Era. Like I know he had been in the WWE and WCW before that, but it was like I didn't know that stuff until, later on in my life. So when I first saw Rikishi, it was during the Attitude Era. And he was with Too Cool, and I was just like, man, this guy is cool, man. And, when he used to do the stink face and like, just rub his ass in people's faces and stuff like that. Like, I thought that stuff was funny. And, me, my brother, and my cousin, it's like my brother and my cousin, they would be Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexy, and then I would be Rikishi, and then we used to do the dance and everything like that. Like, I actually got a picture. I can send it to you. But it's us posing as Too Cool when we were younger. And the funny story about Rikishi is when before I started in the wrestling business, I went to this show called Uprising. It was Southside Pro Wrestling. They were running their annual event called Uprising, and this was Uprising 2, and Rikishi was at that show. Like he was wrestling in the main event, and I was just like, man, it's like I've always wanted to meet Rikishi, so this is going to be a cool moment. So I went to the show. This was my first indie show that I had ever went to. This was 2012, and I got in the ring with Rikishi because he was taking pictures, and I had told him, the same thing I just told you, Nick. Like, I was always a fan. I used to act like him when I was younger and everything, and I was just happy to finally meet him. So that night, I had talked with a wrestler. His name was Brandon Scott, and I was telling him that I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler, yada yada this, yada yada that. And then the following week, I started training to become a professional wrestler. So I met Rikishi that night at my first indie show. Then I started training the following week. So it was a pretty cool moment in my life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I knew that you had met him. I heard that on a previous show that you'd done. And it's always the coolest thing. One of the things we always hear is about be careful about meeting somebody that you looked up to. They may not live up to your expectations. But it's always good to hear those stories when it does. That's the way I put it. So, but now you brought up Southside Pro. kind of tell everybody, because there's a little more to your history with those guys. Tell a little bit about it, because that's kind of where you started out as well, correct?
Yeah.
So tell you just got into training. You started training it was the summer of 2012. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. I started training in it was June 2012. I had went up to the school because it's like I kept procrastinating. Like, the thing about Southside Pro Wrestling was I heard about the school. I want to say about like in the year 2010. I think that's when they started. I think that's when the school was started. And I had heard about it, but it was like at the time, like I didn't have the best type of transportation to make it all the way out Virginia Beach where the school was located at, because you live in Norfolk. And, the school was all the way out Virginia Beach. And like I said, I didn't have the best transportation, and I just kept on putting it off. And then it was like in 2012, I was working at a good job, and I finally had, a decent running car. It was like my coworker at the time. I had told him, I was just like, man, I really want to go out here. And he was just like, man, since we've been working together, you've always told me that you want to be a wrestler, and you keep on saying that you want to go out there. It's like, you need to go ahead and do it while you're young, man, because it's like, if you don't do it, then it's going to be one of those things that you always think about, like, man, I should have did it when I was younger. So I had went to the school after, like, like I said before, like I had went to the SPW show, and then, I started training the following week. So, I went to the school and I met the owner, Mark Anthony. And, he showed me around the school. He introduced me to everybody. And he offered for me to come to practice on Wednesday, which was the beginner's basic night. And after that, the rest was history. I started training there. I met a lot of cool and interesting people. Met a lot of good people there. And it was a good feeling. Finally, doing what I've always dreamed of doing, which was becoming a professional wrestler, because it's like some people, it's like once you make it to high school, it's like, okay, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a lawyer. And I'm just like, nah, I want to be a professional wrestler. So it was a good feeling when I finally stepped into that ring, stepped through the ropes, and, took my first bump in the middle of the ring. And then the next day, my back, it was hurting like shit. So
that's what they always say, is that it's everybody wants to be a wrestler until they take the first bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you find out who the real crazy ones are, who stay into it, right?
Yep. That's true. I mean, it is funny because it's like, some guys, it's like in school, and it's like I remember there was this one guy, I can't remember his name, but it was like he started with me, and he thought that, after he graduated from school that, he was going to be going to, I think WWE, I think it was FCW. Yeah. Florida Championship Wrestling. He thought that, after he graduated that he would be going to Florida Championship Wrestling. And, that when he found out that it didn't work like that, like he quit coming. Some people thought it was like a game, man. Like some people thought that, it's like, as soon as you get your foot in the door, then, WWE was going to be looking you up. And, it doesn't really work like that. Like, some people, it does work like that for some people. If you have a good enough look and, you're on their radar, like, some people, they get snatched right up, but, it doesn't work like that for everybody.
And some guys never. I'll give you, a story of a buddy of mine who I graduated a couple years behind, and he wrestled for 28 years.
Uh-huh.
But it was all indies. He put in 28 years on the indies. He's a legend in the Southeast. I mean, he really is. Everybody knows who he is down around here in the Georgia area. And that's what, he tries to tell everybody when he was working with them. He goes, this is a labor of love. You got to love doing it because you may never see, WWE may never call. He said,
that's true.
Sometimes they do. Some people are blessed with a last name, with a look, or, something that they're right out of the gate. They're in.
Yeah.
But hey, do this because you love it, not because you think the WWE's calling you tomorrow. That's for sure.
Exactly. It's like the one thing I always say is just keep your nose clean and just stay out of trouble, and just work hard and always stay positive, and it's like the cream always rises to the top. You know, people notice hard work, and it's like they see when you're pushing yourself to be the best. So it's like, as long as you just keep on working hard at it, it's like somebody's going to notice you. Somebody will eventually notice you. And like, that's the, you know, that's what I believe in.
And the biggest difference is, we have, I think, a mutual friend of ours. He's on your chart, that, Fat Man Movement, O'Shea Edwards. And one of his biggest thing he always says is, he says, I'm going to make somebody notice.
Yeah.
You know, don't sit around and wait on them to call. Make them call.
Exactly. It's like you want to make a legacy for yourself. It's like you want people talking about you. You want people knowing who you are. You want to kill it every time you step into the ring. So that way people are always talking about you, and then it's like word of mouth. Like, your name gets around, and you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. You know, you never know.
Absolutely. And then the other part about it is I know here you are, you know, 5 years into it, and I'm sure you're, you know, leaps and bounds where, you know, when you look back in hindsight of where you were, you know, I know you debuted, it's October 2012, and look back at that match now and to now, how, you know, the difference it is, it's probably night and day. And even when you hear stories of a guy like, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin says it's 7 years before the light clicked for him. You know, so that's why I tell people when they're in this and like, man, I've been doing this for 3 years. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm like, you do realize that sometimes it takes twice this long for you to even really get what you're trying to do. Yeah.
And you're completely right about that, Nick.
Hello? Yeah. Oh yeah. So definitely.
Okay. No, my phone just vibrated. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But nah, it's like, you're completely right about that, man. And like, that's something too that, you know, I tell guys that are just started in the business. It's like, you can't come in with the mentality that you're better than what you think you are, and that you think that you know everything, because it doesn't work like that. And it's like, like you said, like, for some people, it's like the light bulb, it clicks like that. And then for some people, it's like, it takes a little while longer, but it's like, just because it takes longer doesn't mean that, you know, that, it doesn't mean that you're going to be stuck in the darkness forever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, sometimes it takes a little while longer to learn stuff, for stuff to start clicking to you. Like you said, Stone Cold said it took 7 years before it was just like, it's like, all right, I know what I need to do now. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just how it is for some guys. And it's like, you know, like I said earlier about, you know, keeping your nose clean, just keep your nose clean, just pay your dues. You know, like, don't complain, don't bitch. You know, just do what the promoter asks you to do, unless it's something that, you know, you really don't think that you should be doing. But it's like, you know, if you're just starting off in the business, it's like, of course, you know, you're going to be, you know, when you get booked at certain places, you're going to be, you know, on the undercard, you're going to be a jobber. If the promoter wants you to just do that, then that's all you're supposed to do, is just go out there and make the other guy look good until it's your time, you know, to finally get your shine. But like, don't complain like, oh, I'm tired of losing all the time. It's like, even though you're losing, you should be thankful that you're even being used, because there's always guys that will want to be in the spot that you're in. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like when people complain about Kurt Hawkins, like how he's always losing in WWE. And it's like, man, it's like, if I was him, like, I wouldn't be there. It's like, look, when you're making the amount of money that he's making, and all he has to do is just go out there and do what he has to do, you know, you wouldn't be complaining. You know what I'm saying? It's a job. It's a job. You pay it, you know, it pays the bills. And it's like, you know, that's just what it's all about. Like, some people, it's like they complain about stuff that they don't even know. They don't even, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
sorry, I got lost.
No, I'll give you a great example. We were just, I mean, this has happened recently. I was watching, you know, I mean, obviously we're super active on Twitter, and I saw a fan just going, I can't believe that, you know, Kanellis, is this, I can't believe, he's this, they're just a jobbing out to Sami Zayn and this is, and it's kind of, and he responded and his comment was, the key part of your whole thing is I'm getting paid to do this. It's like, it's a job. I'm doing what I'm told. And he said that on Twitter. Yeah.
I saw that. And then Bubba Ray had tweeted that I didn't, like, I don't make, it was something like, something about 5 stars. Like, I don't get paid in 5 stars, or 5 stars doesn't put food on the table for my family. It was something like that.
And Hawkins, they're running that little angle, like you said, where he's 118-0 or 118. Sorry, I said it backwards. And he got demolished. I don't know if you watched Raw last night. He completely got demolished.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah, they put the pictures up online of his back and how it's all scarred up and everything. But you chuckle, and he's like, because I'm sure he's sitting there, it's the job. It's what he was asked to do, and make Braun look like $1 million, and he did.
People like, he's on TV. And people sit here and complain and say, "Oh man, he deserves better. He shouldn't be doing that." But it's like, this man is on TV and he's getting paid to be on TV.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not on TV. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's like some people just complain way too much about stuff that they shouldn't even be complaining about, because if they were in that position and they were getting paid the amount of money that he was making to do what he does, they wouldn't be complaining. Simple as that.
Absolutely. And it's all about, like you said, it's all about working your way up the ladder, from wherever. And, and I want to come back to you because, I'd heard in previous interviews it said you started out as an enhancement guy, which is hard to believe, with your size, but you were there. And now to where you, and we're going to get to what you've done, the big, the Liberty Lottery that you just won, all that kind of stuff. But it's because of the hard work you've paid, and then, like I said, keeping your nose clean, doing what you're told. Kind of, tell that little story about how, like I said, I heard that you used to be just an enhancement guy yourself, and now you've worked your way up now to you're one of the top guys up there in your promotion.
Yeah, man. It's like I said, cause it's like, every place that you wrestle at, it's like sometimes you come in there and it's like, they want to, it's like they want to use you in certain ways. It's like, of course, when you're just starting off in the business, you really don't know much. It's like, that's, they tell you, as long as you know how to bump, sell, and feed, then you'll always be able to, wrestle somewhere. And it's like, you got to pay your dues. It's like, you go there, you get in the ring, and you make that other guy look like $1 million. And, when it's your time to finally, get that shine, you just take that ball and you go with it. And it's like, where I was at in my wrestling career, like, especially like when I started at SPW, it's like I lost every single match pretty much. And it's like, not once did I ever go online and complain about it. Not once did I make a fuss in the back about it. I never made a scene about it. I just did what I was told. And it's like just going to promotion after promotion after promotion after promotion. It's like, that's the mentality that I always carry is, I do what I'm told. If this is what the promoter wants me to do, then that's what I do. And it's like, I've never been in a promotion where it's like the promoters wanted me to do something ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just always just going out there, do what you do, and that's it. And it's like I said, I never complained, and, there's always somebody watching, and hard work, and eventually it pays off. And like I said, the cream always rises to the top. So it's like, all you need to do is just keep your nose clean and like, don't complain about anything. It's just like, working at a normal job. It's like, you go to work, get paid, and then just go home to your family. Like that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, I used to clock in every day at work, do what they tell me to do. Sometimes it was, I was a manager somewhere, and it would still be some days that's my job to sweep the floors. It doesn't
Yep.
matter. Just clean them, punch out when you go home, and then eventually your talents get recognized as being a team player. And, and that's what the question I wanted to ask you is because, I've seen some video and I've seen some of your matches. And one of the things I wonder is when did that character, the smack talking guy, start coming out? When did that character start coming to you and everyone else started noticing it?
It was my third match at SPW. It's like when I first started, it's like I would go out to the ring and it's like I really wouldn't say much. And it was like I had my third match in my wrestling career. It was against another guy, big guy. And it's like I'm sure, if he's still wrestling, he will be a part of the Fat Man movement. And that was Big Boy Cross. And what happened was we went out there, like before we had went out there, cause like one thing, like, Mark Anthony, you got to go out there and you got to talk smack. You're a bad guy. It's like you don't just want to go out there and be quiet. Then the fans, they're just going to shit all over you. They're just going to keep on talking crap about you, and you're never going to be able to recover from that. So I had the image in my head. I was like, okay, this is what I need to go out here and do. And I went out there and I was just talking so much trash to everybody, and I felt so good about it when I was talking trash. And then, I had the match with Big Boy Cross. Like, this was my third match. And man, this guy, like Big Boy Cross, like he was so amazing. He was good. He's a good guy. And like the match that we had, like I listened to everything that he told me to do in the match. And like we ended up having the match of the night. And I remember one of the guys was telling me, he was just like, man, I was expecting the match to be shit. It's like y'all had the crowd out there chanting SPW. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I really appreciate that, from Big Boy Cross especially for that being my third match, to be in the ring with him and being able to do that. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's, that's that whole thing, that's what I was curious is because like I said, I've heard the smack talk and I've heard the whole, the gift of gab that you've got. There's two questions I had. Is one, I did want to ask you is, because I've seen you push the limits there a little bit. What's the one thing that you've said that, to a fan that's kind of got them the most riled up or the most angry?
Okay. I talk a lot of crap, as you said, Nick. And, this one is actually something recently that happened to me. This happened at Pure Pro last Saturday. I was out there doing, what I usually do best. And I had called this kid in the crowd because this kid was just talking so much crap to me. And, me, like I was talking crap back to him. I called him Four Eyes. Right. And so during intermission, it's like this lady comes up to me and she's like, yeah, I need to talk with you. And I'm like, okay, hey, what's up, lady? And she's like, I just want to let you know that you made my 8-year-old son cry. And I was just like, cry? I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, you called him Four Eyes. And he just started crying immediately after you said that. And I started laughing and I was just like, are you serious? And it was like, I thought she was joking. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, she was like, no. And look, I'm not trying to be a bitch here, but you made my son cry and you're a jerk and you need to apologize to him. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, okay, this lady is serious. And so I had told her, I was just like, go ahead and grab your son and just bring him over here. I'll talk with him. And she said, he's out. I don't even know if he wants to talk to you. He's outside crying right now. And I was just like, okay. So the son finally comes in and everything like that. And like, he comes over to me and he's like, he has his head down and everything. And I told him, I'm like, hey, look, man, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to. And then I wear glasses too. So I pulled my glasses out of my pocket. I was just like, hey, look, I wear glasses too. So are we cool? And he was like, we're cool. And then his mom had, when she told me this, I was like, I wasn't even calling this kid Four Eyes. I was calling it was a kid, like, I was looking in the direction where that kid was, and I was talking to another kid that was wearing glasses because he was talking crap to me the whole night, so it's like when that situation happened, and she came up to me, the mother, because she was a concerned mother, and like she told me, she said that like he gets bullied in school, and like the bullies call him Four Eyes all the time. So by me calling him Four Eyes, that triggered him. And I was, and just looking at it, it's one of the things in wrestling, because it's like, as a heel, you're supposed to go out there and you're supposed to get the fans to boo you and hate your guts. And, by me talking so much crap, it always gets the babyface over, because the babyface whoops my ass. And it's like, whatever kid that I was talking crap to in the audience, like, it's like the babyface always whoops my ass for that kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like they even get the kid involved in the match. So for her telling me that, it's like I felt bad about it, because I'm like, you never know, like, what somebody's going through. And that right there was like something that kind of hit me, that it's like, okay, like, I was being my character, and it's like, I really hurt this kid's feelings. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something that, going forward, that I'm just like, okay, like, I might have to be careful when I call a kid. Like, I shouldn't call a kid Four Eyes, or, I shouldn't call a kid fat because he's fat or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I don't know what that kid is going through, and that kid could be bullied in school, and I'm sitting here being a bully to this kid, and I don't even know this kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So that's just something that I just took away from the show on Saturday. And, and of course, I made things right, because it's like, I apologize to the kid, and I feel like that's the best thing to do. It's like, at the end of the day, it's like, we're characters, we're larger than life characters. And it's like, at the same time, it's like, you got to be respectful too. Like, if you really upset somebody, you don't want to be a dick. You don't want to be a jerk about it. Like, yeah, I made this kid cry. Like, I did my job as a heel. You know what I'm saying? Especially in this day and age too, because a lot of people are a lot more sensitive, nowadays,
Well, that was the question I was going to ask you, is you think it's just because it's a different time and a place? Because back in the day, as we like to say, that would have the heel, that was totally what he was trying to do. He didn't care if he offended anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's true. And it's like me, like you said, back in the day, like, it's like, I've been a big kid. I was a big kid my whole life. So it's like, I used to get called names, and it's like, I didn't cry or I didn't get upset about it. It's like, I would just get in somebody's face about it until they would stop, calling me fat or something like that. But it's like, at the same time, I think that it has to, do with the upbringing as well. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like my mom, it's like, cause I come from a single parent home, and it's like my mom, like, she used to, instill stuff into me and my brother all the time as kids, like, about standing up for ourselves and not letting people talk down to us, or not letting people take advantage of us, or just, say stuff about us that's not true. So, me and my brother, we always stuck up for ourselves. And I'll tell you right now that I'm the type of person where if I see somebody being bullied or somebody's being talking down to, I'll stand up for that person. Because it's like, not everybody can stand up for themselves. And it's like, growing up as a kid, like, if I saw somebody getting bullied, I would stand up for them. And like, that's something too, like, nowadays, and I know we're kind of going off subject, from wrestling, but just talking about like stuff that happens in the real world, it's like, I feel like that's something that doesn't happen as much as it used to. If you see a kid getting picked on, it's like, go stand up for that kid. Don't just sit there and laugh at him, because it's like, it saddens me, like, when I hear that, a child took their life because they were being bullied.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And instead of somebody standing up for them now, what the kids do is they break out their phone and record it.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. Like I've talked about with my friend about like how social media it's a double-edged sword, man, because it's like, back in the day, it's like if somebody was joking you, it's like you probably had about like 4 or 5 people laughing. Whereas now it's like those 4 or 5 people that are laughing can pull out their phone and record you, and now the whole world is laughing at you now.
Right, 30,000 people view it within the first few hours, or so, something like that, and if it's bad enough, it becomes viral, and then millions see it, and so you've got, and then it's one of the lessons about I'm a father of 3, and one of the things I always tell my daughters is don't put anything on the internet that you don't want the entire world to see, because once it goes up there, it never goes away.
Exactly. No matter how many times you delete it, because somebody's always going to download it and save it, and they're just going to re-upload it. So you got to be real careful about what you put on the internet.
Absolutely. Like I said, your grandkids are going to see this someday, possibly. They're going to Google your name and it's going to come up, or it could come up.
Exactly.
Absolutely agree. But you were talking about how far, with the way heels used to push it and now, but let me ask you another question about being for one, I'm going to come back to another question I have about the talking, but you kind of put me on a tangent as well. And by the way, don't worry about the tangents. One of the things about our network, I'm the king of tangents. I'll go down a rabbit hole in a heartbeat. So the question I had is, about being the bad guy now. Why is it all of the bad guys want to be cool and they don't want to be, they want to sell the merch, they want to do all that. They don't want to be a really bad guy. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I think that's at the detriment of the babyface.
Yeah, it's like, that's one of the things, like when you look at like, wrestling back in the day, and it has to deal with something about like, just wrestling always evolving. And it's like all of the bad guys just want to be cool guys now. And it's like they don't want to be assholes anymore. They don't want to talk trash. They don't want to, talk shit. It's just like, it's like everybody has that I'm better than you attitude nowadays. And I don't know why. I don't know when it started. I don't know when, everybody was just like, all right, I want to be a cool, cocky badass guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't have guys that just, like one good guy is Kevin Owens.
He's one of the rare ones. Exactly.
I mean, you could even say the Miz, like he's one too, yeah. but what it really boils down to, man, it's like I said, with social media being that double-edged sword, it's like so many people can see into your lives and, see the stuff that you do online. It's like me, for example, it's like I like Dragon Ball Z. So it's like I'm always talking about it on my page, or it's like I'm talking, like people see the good stuff that I do in my life on my page. And they're just like, yeah, how can we boo this guy? You know what I'm saying? So I really want to say social media played a big factor into, the cool bad guy, because it's like he can't really be, the bad guy that you hate. He's the cool bad guy.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to come back because you actually piqued my interest with it on your Dragon Ball Z page. You have a page on Facebook, is that correct?
Yeah. I have a page and a group on Facebook that I run. It's called Roshi's Island. The group, it started, hold on. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary hold on. What's today?
The 26th.
Oh, man. Our 2-year anniversary was on the 24th. I forgot to make a post in the group about it. Yeah, I need to make a post in the group about that. Dang. But yeah, we just came up on our 2-year anniversary, and we're at 3,000 members in the group right now. And we also have the Facebook page, where we just reached over 17,000 people. I think we're almost at 18,000 followers on the page. Yeah, man, it's hard running the page. It's like you got to put a lot of time and energy into a page. And it's funny that it's like I do the same stuff on my Benjamin Banks page, and I think I'm only at like 600 and something followers on my Benjamin Banks page, but then it's like on the Dragon Ball Z page, I'm at 17,000. So yeah, people are crazy.
Social media, man. It's crazy. You never know.
Social media. Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, I'm going to come back because that Dragon Ball Z, it's a whole. We talked about it a little bit before. Where I'm 43, so I'm a little back into the Transformers, Voltron, GI Joe's time frame. But it seems to be huge now. When you go on, I mean, you've got guys with, Dragon Ball Z stuff on their tights, and they're running, like I said, somebody like you running on a page. It's just, and then like Xavier Woods obviously is he's at Dragon Con here in Atlanta every year, but and all of that kind of stuff into the anime and stuff. So it just seems like it's just embedded into pro wrestling at this point.
Yeah, I would say so. Anime and video games. It's like you have like Kenny Omega, like his finisher that he used to use. He used to do the Hadouken.
Yeah,
as a finisher. So it's like video game. I don't know. I think it's just the times changing, and the evolution of stuff. Like you got to think, like back in the day, it's like video games and anime, they weren't that popular back in the 80s. And then it's like then the 90s came, and then you had the 64 and the PlayStation, and then you had better quality animes like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and Yu Yu Hakusho coming out. So it's just the timing of things, and then the changing of the times.
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you an analogy that I use that I catch a lot of grief for, especially from the older generation. Everybody always says, like, how come, you've got grown men who are, into Dragon Ball Z and, anime and comic books and all that stuff. And I go back and tell them, you may not realize this, but the older generation was still into the things they grew up on. They grew up wanting to be a cowboy.
Yep.
They wanted to be John Wayne. That's who they wanted to be. And so they became the rugged, tough guy image. And I said, we just grew up on an era where it wasn't that. It was, I'm a grown man at 43 who is sitting in his studio right now looking at the walls, and comic books are all over my walls. I'm a comic collector, so they're just everywhere. And everybody's like,
who's your favorite, what's your favorite comic?
People are always laugh at this answer. It's the Green Lantern. And I actually have a great reason as to why.
Which Green Lantern?
I'm a Hal Jordan guy through and through. Hal Jordan is the Green Lantern. My second favorite, believe it or not, is Jon Stewart. Third is Kyle Rayner. But I can get into the reasons why. But I did own a comic book store in a previous life. So, and my parents used to always ask me, what comic book should I get my kid to read? And I would tell them the Green Lantern, and they would ask me why. And my answer is real simple. If you really dig deep into it, and most kids don't, I said, but if you dig deep into it, the message of the comic book is you can do anything you want as long as you have the desire and the willpower to make it happen.
Willpower. There you go. You want to know what's funny, man? Is that I was just talking about Green Lantern at Pure Pro on Saturday. Timmy Danger, like Green Lantern is his favorite comic hero, and Hal Jordan is his favorite comic hero, So pretty much what you were just saying about willpower, like that's what the Green Lantern Corps is all about. And it's cool because it's like each Lantern Corps has their own thing. Like, the Red Lanterns are rage, and then the Yellow Lanterns are fear, and the Purple Lanterns are love. And when you think about it, it's like all of the colors of the lanterns is something that we as humans have inside of us. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's like willpower, rage, fear, love. I forgot what the blue ones were, because it's indigo, hope.
Yep.
So it's like, all of the stuff that the lanterns have, it's cool that it always, like comics in general, just always have to deal with like real world situations, or just, humans in general. Like one of my favorite comics is the X-Men comics.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm reading this one X-Men comic right now, and it's called Man Kills. God Loves, Man Kills. And how the comic starts off is like these two kids get killed in the beginning of the comic, right? Because they're mutants. And it's like the villains not the villain. Yeah, they're villains. They're called the Purifiers, which are like humans who hate mutants. You know what I'm saying? And they killed the two kids just because they were mutants. And these are two kids, and then they hang these kids on swings at the schoolyard, so that way that it'll be a huge uproar the next day when like the other kids see these kids, hanging at the school. And Magneto comes and he's like, these two children their lives were taken from them at such a young age just because they're mutants and they'll never be able to live their lives. And I'm just like, wow, it's sad. It's sad how comics can do that to you sometimes, where you just sit there and make you, get all emotional and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And like the stuff that happens in comics is, the same stuff that goes on in the real world right now. Like one of the things that I always liked about the X-Men comics is how Professor X, he's a representation of Martin Luther King, and how Magneto is a representation of Malcolm X. And, both of the, the values that both of those guys had, where it's like, we rather do Professor X, we rather do stuff in peace, whereas Malcolm X Magneto is like, no, we need to take what we want and do what we want and stop letting these humans walk all over us. So
comics are a total reflection of society. They completely are. And go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just saying, man, this is pretty cool, man. Like I'm enjoying the conversations that we're having right now, because this is some real stuff, man.
Oh, absolutely. And because I preached this. When I was, like I said, I had many a conversation with a parent, because that was one of the things I took the most responsibility for, is when parents came in and were trying to get their kids started on comics. They're always like, well, what should I buy? And they're like, the kid wants, everybody at school tells him to get Deadpool. And I'm like, he's 9. Deadpool's not his book. That kind of thing. But it was always me trying to teach them the lesson of, because everybody was like, well, Superman's boring or da-da-da. Superman's one of my favorites. I'm actually on the wall to my right. I actually have the Death of Superman story. It's all framed and it's all across my wall. It's all the individual books, not one book. They're all across the wall. And I always preach to everybody that the big thing about Superman's not what he could do. It's what he chose not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And learn that lesson. Just because you can do something and you're stronger and you're bigger and you're faster, that doesn't necessarily mean you should do whatever you want because you can.
Exactly.
Protect those that should be protected, which is something you were talking about earlier. Protect everybody that you can with what you're given.
Yeah, and the same thing can be said about anime and manga, because it's like the reason why I love Dragon Ball Z so much is because of Goku, and it's more of the English anime of Dragon Ball Z than the Japanese anime. And the only reason why I say that is because in the Japanese anime, I mean, like he's pretty much still the same guy, but he's more of an idiot in the Japanese dub of the anime compared to the American dub. In the American dub, Goku's more of a serious, roundabout character. I mean, like just going all the way from Dragon Ball to when he was a kid, and the life lessons that he learned on his way from when he was a kid to now being an adult and having a family of his own. And Goku's thing was always protecting those who couldn't fight, or, standing up to those evils that nobody else could stand up to. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and yep. just the whole values that Goku had is something that, that I always took in life about, like, sticking up for people and standing up for people, because, not everybody can voice their opinions without, being attacked and, feeling like that, they're nothing,
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And now let me ask you a silly question then, because I know as of late, have you not been kind of doing a slight, you're doing more of a babyface kind of turn in your primary home?
Yeah, at Vanguard Championship Wrestling, yeah, I'm a babyface over there.
Okay, but I had one more question, because, we did tangent. I totally said I was going to come back to this. One of the things I was going to ask you is, the gift of gab that you've got, how did that polish up? I know there's something you do on the side as well that I think probably helps you. Why don't you tell everybody that's going to surprise them what you do a little bit on the side?
I do stand-up comedy.
Gotcha.
I do stand-up comedy. It's funny how I got into it. One thing about professional wrestling is that it opens so many doors for you, and different aspects of life. And professional wrestling opened up the door for stand-up comedy. And it's crazy because stand-up comedy is something that I've always wanted to do, from just growing up and looking at guys like, Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle and Ralphie May. Like, like those guys were hilarious. And growing up, I was just like, man, I want to do stand-up comedy, but I was too shy to get on stage, and it's like wrestling helped. It really helped my confidence, because it's like, like Mark Anthony told me when I first started, it's like, you got to talk. If you don't say anything, people are just going to shit on you. And so, I had did this gig at the Virginia Beach Funny Bone. Me and my former manager, Jerry Stephanesis, we had did this gig to promote one of the shows coming up for Vanguard Championship Wrestling. And then it was like a few weeks later, the guy who runs the comedy class at the Funny Bone, he had hit me up, and he had, offered for me to come to the Funny Bone to, learn how to do comedy. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I told him, like, same thing I just said now, like, it was something that I always wanted to do. And, the rest is history. I haven't, it's something that I need to get back into, but, I've performed at a couple of places so far, and, I've done pretty well there. It's like, it's like I would get on stage and think, man, nobody's going to laugh at my jokes. And it's funny when, when people do laugh. It's just like, okay, maybe I am funny.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize, and I know, I'm sure if you don't know, but, Dolph Ziggler does the same thing.
Yeah.
He does comedy. And because my thing is where I see the parallels so much, because when you mentioned that to me, like stand-up comedy and wrestling have they're so similar in the sense of the only way you get better is get out there in front of people and do it. And I've heard Chris Rock say, some nights you're going to bomb. They're not going to like any, but that's why you polish it night after night. And wrestling's the exact same thing. Is learn how to react and feed off of the crowd, and, and polish it up. And eventually you'll get to where you can get them to where you want them to go versus them taking you somewhere. And I think that's the similarities in it. So, I mean, you agree with that? Do you feel that when you're doing it?
I completely agree with you, because Rome wasn't built in a day. It's like nobody's just going to start off and be the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes hard work. You have to work hard to, get to wherever you want to be at in life.
100% agree. And you're getting there. And I've watched some of the tape, and, super impressed. Obviously, that's why we were super, excited to get you on. We're running out of time, as crazy as that sounds. So we got to get you back on. That's just that we just got to get you back on. We might do a whole show where we're talking about nothing but comics, right? That's a good show, or anime, and you can kind of teach me the Dragon Ball Z world and that kind of stuff. So, cause trust me, I've had wrestlers on before. Comic books is a rabbit hole that you can take me down that I may never come out of if it's done in a way. But and there's a whole list of questions I wanted to ask you. So it's a no-brainer to have you back on at this point. But before we let you go, I do want to let everybody know, if they're hunting you down, where do they find you?
All right. You can find me on Twitter at Benji_Banks. You can find me on Instagram at XDMoney23X. And then you can find me on Facebook at BenjaminB23.
And then where are you going to be at when they're looking for you on shows and stuff like that? I mean, anything you got to plug, promote, merch, anything like that, hit them with it now and hit them hard.
Okay. On October 7th, Vanguard Championship Wrestling in Norfolk, Virginia. They're having a show, and Billy Gunn is going to be there. Mr. Ass, Billy Gunn is going to be at the Vanguard Championship Wrestling show on October 7th. And then on October 14th, I'm going to be back at Pure Pro Wrestling in Montvale, Virginia. So those are the only two things that I have going for me going into next month. But hopefully some other stuff opens up
Yeah, well, that's what we're shooting for. I mean, we hope to, we might even try to make us, we get out, believe it or not. I've done a Denver trip. I've got a Mississippi trip I'm trying to plan. I've done North Carolina, South Carolina. So maybe I can get out and catch you at a show live. That would be a good change for me to get up to that side of town.
Sweet. So yeah, man, I'd be happy to meet you, Nick.
Oh yeah, I'm big about meeting people face to face, shaking the hands. The people that I always tell people, if you do us right and you come on to the show, least I can try to do is get out there. And I know maybe down the road, I know there's a company that you've done. Have you done some stuff? Was it with AML?
Yeah, I went to, I did something for one of their shows. I was in, it was a Future Stars, battle royal that I was in.
Gotcha. I know they're doing some stuff at WrestleCade. I'm going to be up at WrestleCade this year. So I was like, man, it'd be nice if we could get him into there and get him at WrestleCade. We could maybe hook up with you there. But like I said, I try to get up the coast. It's not as far as a drive as most people think, believe it or not. I've done the Atlantic City, Washington DC trip a time or two. So, definitely hope we can see you, but definitely check him out. Find him again on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere, get the merch. That's all I always tell everybody. Get out and see your indie shows. I don't know if you're from, you saw the story that broke. I'm such a huge fan of indie wrestling because AJ Styles popped up at a show just about an hour and a half from our house.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. You never know, man. Never know.
Well, what I tell everybody is that it's not just that. But it's also the fact of, as he pointed out that show, he said, you never know where the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, AJ Styles, Rock are coming from. Because like we said earlier, most people don't just start at the WWE and work their way up. You're watching that next wave of superstars right in front of you. And so you can remember back to when you saw them win, and plus, to be honest with you, like you said earlier, where else can you walk up and shake your hand? That doesn't happen at a WWE event. You don't shake John Cena's hand. No, with no disrespect to John Cena, it just doesn't happen. Whereas you got to go to the meet and greets in order to catch them, and then even with that, like you got to wait in a long line just to shake the hand and take a picture and all that stuff. And move along. Yeah, take a picture, shake the hand, move along. Exactly. And you paid probably hundreds to see it. And that's the crazy part. I tell people all the time, $20 typically will get you in at best. That's an expensive show, to be honest with you. I mean, on my average show, it's anywhere between 10 and 15 to get into an indie show. Drop 20 on a shirt. And I always tell everybody, buy a shirt. Every show you go to, you should buy a shirt because you need to support the wrestlers directly. So I'm a big fan of that. I try to buy at least one shirt every show I go to. And I move it around, but I tell the same people, just support the guys. They're out there, they're busting their hump. They're trying to make it, buy a shirt. Whoever impacted you the most at the show, walk over to the table. They're typically there. You can shake their hand, talk to them for a second, and buy the shirt. That's my spiel on support indie wrestling, and that's the best thing I can try to get across to people these days.
Yeah, and like what you just said, man, I love it when people do that, man. Especially when you go somewhere and nobody knows you, because it's like at every indie show that I wrestle at, especially if it's a new place, it's like there's always new faces that are coming in there, and it's like every match you should always treat it as an audition, so that way that people will come back to see you, because it's always a good feeling when somebody comes up to you and like, hey man, I really enjoyed you in the ring, and most of the time they buy something from you because they see that you're a cool down to earth person. So
I agree, man. So definitely get out, find the man, follow him on Twitter, like we said. When you see him in a town near you, make sure you get out and make that trip. It'll be well worth every dime you spend. Cause I got a feeling with this movement you got, the Fat Man movement going, I think and I hope that we start seeing more of those waves flowing into your Ring of Honors, NXTs, that, and then kind of course, working their way up to those, WWE, New Japan, et cetera, et cetera. That's my hope anyway. And I'm sure it's probably something that you hope as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And, like I said again, man, it's a movement for all fat, man. It's not just me trying to push something that's an agenda or something to get myself over. It's something to get all of the fat guys over. It's something to bring the prominence back in the pro wrestling that, everybody is different and not everybody has to look the same. You know what I'm saying?
I
It's
100% agree.
like Forrest Gump said, you open up that box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's the circus, man. I mean, it's if you see 7 matches and they all look the same, and I have been to shows like that, and it wears thin by match 4. But
Yeah.
if you give me and then again, if you give me a cruiserweight match, but then you give me a big guy match, then you give me a tag match, and then you give me, you mix it up, then there's a brawl or whatever. It just makes the show so much more refreshing when it's a mixture, and it gives you a variety. So I wish a lot of the promoters could learn from that and run with that. Then it's more often than not, the indie shows give it to you. It's the bigger companies that a lot of them seem cookie cutter, and it's like, I've seen this match by the 4th match. And you're like, oh, yeah, give me something fresh. Give me something new. So, but, buddy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And I promise you.
Thanks for having me.
It won't be the last. I promise you. We'll definitely have you back. So, with that being said, buddy, we'll see you out there, man. Hopefully we can get up there and we can give you a C.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, like I said, man, I hope to see you soon, man.
We can make
Hopefully
it happen.
we can meet, link up.
All right,
I love it, man.
All right, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
All right, bye.